Hello and welcome. This is Lindsay of Lindsay Lou Rogers for the Momentum Talk Show. And today we have with us Jeremy Anacker. Why don't you say hello,
Oh,
Jeremy?
hello, everybody.
What an honor to have him here with us today. He will get to tell us a little bit about himself and his journey. And I will begin by letting you all know what momentum means. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. It stands for Monumental Opportunity Manifesting Extraordinary New Times upon Man and Womankind. And we'll go into this later, but this was actually a download that I received about a year ago in January of 2020. Ooh, it's already 2021. And so we'll go over that in a while and talk about all the ways Jeremy and I have been energetically connected over the years. So take it away, Jeremy. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a currently a presenter in Madison, Wisconsin, and I do a lot to share with people about transformation emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I kind of lay the groundwork often about that. Everything's energy. Everybody is energy. Thoughts are energy, and we have energy playing around us and in our bodies. And that can be a powerful tool for whatever we intend for wellness or happiness and well-being. Um, it started when I was very young, and I've been consciously working in public for 30 years.
30 years. Wow. So, how did that begin? You must have been very young.
I was very young, and coming into the world being just this intuitive being as the foremost thing, it kind of meant that I was kind of spacey, but I would also hang out in the trees, and I had these friends in the trees that were communicating to me, and I'd sing to them. And that wasn't the only part of it. I think I was always like watching the world differently. I had this distance in me about how people interacted. And one year, my family and I went on a trip to Florida, and our cat was back in, our home in the rural Wisconsin by Stevens Point. And when I was in Florida, all of a sudden I was just shocked, and I started crying. My cat's dead. And that shocked my parents. I think that did scare them too. Like, what else does this kid pick up on? Who do we have here? And that was a struggle for my parents and for myself, how to deal with that. And what was also there in my childhood was a lot of experiences with large groups of people in the woods, around fires, singing songs, um, free spirited kind of interactions. People might be jumping in the water naked, or sort of the hippie lifestyle in some ways. So I had a strong inclination to be with groups in these higher ways, purposeful ways, thinking deeply, thinking in alternative ways. So I was born in that bend. So when I finally got out of a very strict high school in a very conservative area of Wisconsin, I went to an art school, and I discovered healing work, and I became very in touch with the fact that I had this intuitive being. I saw auras. I I knew that if I was in a tribal setting, they'd call me a shaman. I think I was there already. That I have this sculpture right here I made when I was about 20. And it's got an Entomo mask on top, and it's got some historical reference, but it's also kind of what was natural for me to do things from this visionary place. So in shamanic culture, they'd be go, oh, he's a dreamer. He's not a stalker. He doesn't come at the world from this dimension. He starts off in some other dimension, and he's trying to figure out how to function in this one. And that's what was there for me when I was 20. And I found a school in Milwaukee called the Institute of Self-Awareness after a lot of testing things out in the Milwaukee area. And I was quickly one of their intuitives and presenters there. So that's where it all started. That was a lot to say.
Great. Keep going.
Okay. Oh, just keep going. Okay. So in art school, I was finding my voice. I was encouraged to think all these different philosophies and find ways to express them. It was a nice, encouraging, open forum. And I was able to get way into self-awareness and the world of art and philosophy all at once when I was very young there. And I think part of it was I had this intuitive awareness that was so hard for me to function in daily life that, and I knew I was clear about that early enough to work really hard at finding my voice and then giving it to people in useful ways. And so when I found the Institute of Self-Awareness, I was given a lot of feedback on my energy field from other aura seers, from other intuitives, and we had a very powerful curriculum on transformation, a powerful vision of the self, and some real encouraging and useful facilitation on how to live it now and not wait to be your powerful self. And so I got into that, became a co-founder very fast. So I was doing talks all over Milwaukee. At that time, it was quantum awareness. So how does paradigm shift and big thinking, as inspired by maybe quantum physics, the new discoveries, how does that all fit in with the new consciousness that thought is energy? How does that transform your life? So I was doing little talks all over Milwaukee at 20 years old, 21, 23.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a lot for someone at that age to express, take on, admit to self, and be confident enough to share with others.
Yeah, confident with knees shaking. And I'd show up to a library and someone that was there 3 times my age and 3 times more educated. And it was time to find your voice, Jeremy. It's time to find your equal self. And that was an uncomfortable growth process. And I worked to stay that uncomfortable to this day.
It's a great way to be.
Yeah.
Really pushing yourself, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
Okay.
So, and I have enough experiences in life to know that if I stay comfortable, I'm not growing and something will kind of hit me blindsided. So I'm more comfortable with the fear in my gut than I am if I'm in some kind of entropy or non-ecstatic place.
Can I ask you a question related to that?
Please ask me. Yes.
So for those of you out there, or myself included, how do you decipher between when you're up and out of your body doing too much versus
right?
You understand? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the ideas come in faster than what you can do, and in some ways, if you don't have your foundation and your energy field, you have the ideas and they run crazy and you're not standing firmly on the ground.
Exactly.
Right. And I was aware of that was true for me when I was 20, and I've been slowly growing out of that challenge. And it's still something I'm very conscious of, but I think it's a big deal to have another adjustment in it. It's very peaceful and satisfying to keep growing, understanding my stuff, and then making some progress today on it. So really making sure my feet are on the ground and that I'm asking myself what's going on in the upper region of my field, asking myself, how can I translate it in full embodiment? How can I get the walk to walk and along with what's going on in higher awareness, how I get those two parts of me to get along well. I think being conscious about that intention and understanding it's a barrier to not have a lot of bottom ground. I think it's useful just to be really clear about your stuff. And that's what I have. You and I were talking just recently about this. We have similar patterns with that. So yeah, how do you keep in check all the new fun ideas with what you can do with the amount of time you have in the day?
Yeah, how do you decipher? So sometimes does that mean letting go of some of them? Because you might have this like whoosh, this flood.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm just one person, but this is the idea for the whole world.
Yeah. So I'll admit, I think I have exactly the same problem as you.
Okay, good to know.
But I also have a lot of background in community. So I understand, whoop, this is um, something to stay aware of. So when I think of the times I've been in confusion or feeling rattled by the number of ideas and not being able to settle in and find a useful place, I own it as a unhelpful pattern in me, an unhelpful alignment. I'm in a conditioned place where, on one level, my brain is looking for the right, best way to be, and I'm seeing multi perspectives. I'm being lost in relativism. I'm like, all these thousand views are coming in, and they're all trying to get along, and they're not um, helping me become, grounded until I'm intentional about being grounded. So I have this mantra I do, this thing I do, and I'll do some of these things for days. So this is who I've become. This is who I've been in the past. I'll sit and I'll just go, I shall have no desire before the desire of knowing who I am from my deepest, most place, and then to think, speak, act, live from that. And I'll say it over and over again. And as I'm saying it, I feel myself settle. I feel myself be discerning. I feel myself be dismissive over what's not important right now. There's a lot of ideas that come in that are from society as well. So when you don't have ground, they come in without filters. Ideas from society can come in without filters.
Yeah, I'm picturing a shield almost, but like sunglass shield,
Right.
like reflectors.
Right. Well, I think that the internal decision to only be in the most purposeful place is more on point than trying to protect myself with shielding. My personal concern is with the idea of shielding or protection is that when I'm putting up a shield or trying to protect myself, what I'm actually holding in mind is that I can be harmed.
That is so powerful.
So
you're dismissing fear, it seems.
It just not using fear, and then you're no longer attracted to those wavelengths, those unhelpful wavelengths. I think it's a really powerful new way to work. I really think it's a super rare way to work, and it's really one of those things on the list that are there for me. This is why I go public. People don't know about this, and in fact, this bounces off like you wouldn't believe. It's really challenging to work with. I think people have parties. They get together in their intuitive circle and they all talk about their protective bubbles. And it's a community thought. It's everybody gets together. I'm an empath. I need to protect myself from all the negativity in the world. And it becomes this whole culture of things that are connected to it. And it's right for the people that feel aligned to it. And I'm not saying that I have the right way and they have the wrong way. I'm just saying that I really feel this and I need to express it. It's really been working for me. I feel the sizzle in the truth of it. I love being less and less victim to uncomfortable energies moving through the room. They kind of pass through me more now. And that's by virtue of having more ground. When you have a ground wire in your fixture in the bathroom and you're throwing water at the thing, the ground wire keeps it from going crazy. If you're an empath, an endless amount of visualizing negative energy being blocked won't work like a good, solid alignment and a decision to be purposeful, useful, and completely dispassionate about egos in general. I have one. Their negativity isn't my problem. I have plenty of my own to work with. Why do I want to concern myself with all that? What if I really focus on being intensely prayerful about a lived way and I become this powerful spark? Where does the darkness go when the light's turned on? It simply can't attack a light bulb when it's turned on. I'm sorry, I get really crazy about this.
I think actually this is a great message for those that are in the moment and they are deflecting or protecting. And it's a good
Right.
segue or next step for them. It sounds like you've evolved beyond this way of being that's kind of
Right.
stuck inside.
Yeah. You know, there are energy medicine techniques that are very useful, and I'll call those phase one things, where until your energy is stronger, you can do a little zip up in the governing meridian so the chakras aren't just hanging out. But what happens in empaths is the chakra gets open and there's like a value. I should feel everything. It's like a value also. I'm special because I can feel everybody. So that doesn't get managed differently because now it's an identity. I'm this special person. I'm empathic. It needs to be there. And then I need to get affirmed for this special pattern called empath, and which is totally different than going, wait a minute, let's get tough here. Let's get the heart chakra balanced. Look at all the chakras that work together in a clear way. Let's get aligned. And if it's intuition, it's one of 7 chakras. And I'm going to be as interested in where my strengths are as where I am not so good, which is root chakra stuff. We get people in our intuitive community, you can see them a mile away. Once you start paying attention, there's some aversion to the functioning world, like getting into the nitty gritty in life. That was me. It was hang out in the art lab and, when I go waiter tables, this is hell. And that hell wasn't the world and its negativity trying to attack me. It was actually me judging the world, not getting here, coming to it on its terms. And being here as a visionary, even if I plant a small seed in common culture about, all people are equal or whatever. Even if I do that, and I face the world courageously, I'm being incredibly useful, and I'm growing. I'm really fired up today.
Well, excellent. What'd you say?
I'm really fired up today. Sorry, I'm taking over like this.
No, that's great. I heard the spark. I really liked that. I wrote that down. My homeopathist explained it as boots on the ground. Like, what can you do right now in the physical world? Because we do become really detached and live up here sometimes. And
Right.
I'd really like you to talk about the root chakra in a minute. I was going to actually have you give an example of which ones are, going great and others that need to have some work.
Right. Yeah. So classically in metaphysical awareness, you talk about root chakra. In the work I do, often I talk about, like, if the body is here, the aura can be out of balance, higher or lower. So for me, as root chakra was weaker, it meant my aura was higher. It rode higher, meaning that I had direct access to intuitive reality, and it was so strong, it deflated my any capacity to start sort of focus on functioning, like having my feet on the ground. So it goes back to simply, it's time to be as interested in my gifts as what is not easy for me. It's time to value both equally and intensely so.
That's a profound statement, because it's really easy to go. I mean, that kind of, coincides and contradicts this idea of going, with the things that come easily to you. And then but it's like I'm just not going to face the things.
Yes.
I'm going to turn a blind eye to what I need to work on, like basics.
Yes. And I think for me, I embody the need for a certain number of people to do grounding all the way. And what part of the journey for me is, for instance, being a famous artist in New York is now less important. It's more important to be a good person in everyday life. In simple ways, doing small things with beautiful energy. washing the dishes, for instance.
Gonna say domestic things, yes.
Like that's God's work, like really feet on the ground style of spirituality. Chop wood, carry water, sister.
Yeah, that's great.
And it was a challenge, but I think that it helped me understand and discern through a lot of what's going on in the spiritual marketplace or spiritual community that is like emphasizing the importance of this higher zone, and it becomes so valued that an ordinary style of spirituality gets ignored, like the ordinariness being God's realm.
It's like honoring the ordinary. And it also reminds me of just what grounding means in general, like getting your feet on the earth.
Yes.
And yin and yang of like this dichotomy of all this higher thought processes and then doing the manual labor of life to get you grounded.
To get you grounded, and even to try to get into a place where ultimate spirituality comes out of the cracks in the sidewalk here.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. And you start to see it because you're not living in your bubble, essentially. You're seeing your neighbors and what's actually around you.
It's a challenge to discern through all the ideas offered in the world. And I think it's also a gift to start seeing through ideas and find your truth. Like for me, there was a time where every book in the spiritual bookstore seemed to glisten, and it was like, the music was playing through me. And now I think that it's nice to know you're supposed to outgrow that. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe this book will work, and I do some work, and one paragraph out of that book now works. And then that one paragraph is like sizzle. Wow, this is taking me to a new place. And it becomes a challenge to find those new places to put one's foot as we mature or whatever. And I would like to make sure to say that isn't big ego. That's just, you've been around the track so much. You're looking for something that really works. You've tried all these things and you've seen the half answers in them, the half true, they're true. And then there's a next thing, and there's more.
That's really grounding. And and it really is. It also reminds me of like this romanticizing of life, or like the happily ever after. It's almost like when you go through life, you're like, oh, this is too good to be true. Maybe it is in some things. And then you like kind of get yourself back to reality. Right. And it's kind of reassuring for people that are at the place where everything is glistening too much, or they want to be at least that place, the prior place to the glistening, and then they can kind of relax into reality.
Yeah. So as I'm aware of energy fields, and as I watch them as a practice, someone can come in very uplifted, and their energy field has a beauty in it. It's like it's bigger and it's kind of lift in it. Like everybody's lifted, and I stay open, and I go, and it's got candy in it, and I get a little nauseous hanging out in it. It's not, the feet aren't on the ground yet, but it's spiritually aware. And how do I go, yes, a spiritually aware person, and energize that fact and be there in all realness. And then at some point, if they hire me, I can go, okay, let's see if we can get your spirituality to feel more real. Let's see, can we assess what's candy and what's food in spiritual reality or spiritual passions. And I think you said something just a minute ago about fantasy in that. I think in everyday life, we wonder about our fantasies versus our reality. I think it's part of growth. I think we need to keep asking ourselves what's real, what's true. And we learn from all kinds of ways we function, like in relationships, for instance. Think about in human history, most of human history, marriage was a deal about survival.
True. Yes.
Right. You find the man that can take care of your daughter in traditional society. Now it's changed. And the romantic idea of love is pretty darn new yet. And in the current times, like in the last 20 or 30 years, it's the new way is also being offered in rapid form. The romantic idea is beautiful and works. And then also there's more than that. It doesn't always work.
Exactly.
And the new way is trying to get clear on a spiritual way to see partnership.
Go on. I'm glad we got to this topic.
Okay.
Yeah, this is big.
So the new way to see spiritual partnership in my awareness and in my life has been how to ask myself some really tough questions. And maybe it's easier after I've been through enough challenges, been leveled by the romance.
Right.
Like, how many of us have had the beautiful experience and then it changes in a radical way?
It's kind of sad. I mean,
it's from a certain point of view, it's profoundly sad. And then I would offer, if we invest in the spiritual way, it becomes important, critical information.
I would agree.
So in my current partnership, we've benefited immensely from being super real about the human conditioning and, pointing towards each other with respect and relaxing a lot of the needs that come from fantasy. There's basic needs that come from the human part of us. But there's like the person next to me doesn't have to provide the millions of things that is expected these days from a person. I don't need to lay that on to someone.
That's a realization over time too, because that can also be disappointing to realize and empowering to realize you don't have to do that for someone else either.
Yeah, right. It can clear things up. And a lot of what I'm saying needs to happen only when you're ready. I mean, we have to.
I agree.
We're all in a laboratory. We're all part of our own experiment and all this. But I think I'm the kind of person that leans towards awareness to make things easier and to be, if I'm enthusiastic about change, I've learned that everything is easier and I get to the wisdom faster and it's more fun. I'm just that type of intuitive.
That's great.
Yes. So I think what really can happen at some point in one's maturity, it gets incredibly real. And I spent 20 years with incredibly real people in community, and we told each other like it is. We were transformation people. There was no fluff. There is your jugular. There's a group of 10 people going at it. So I was sitting there at 20 years old and 30 years old and 35 years old with my jugular exposed because they were also aware and they would just go at it.
It's graphic, but visuals are good.
Yeah, and I was supposed to relax. As they
right.
telling me like it is. And it really helped me, like when I become someone's flavor of the month, in community or the most amazing person for a full 9 months, I know that's going to go away. In my community, I was, that's just Jeremy. These intuitive energies do run through those of us who work at this. And people deal with that all kinds of ways. And I think they're disappointed when they realize that I'm still a human working on myself, So I'm supposed to fall off the pedestal in their minds. It's really important that I do. And it's really important that I keep maintaining that I'm a person on a parallel path with them. I'm working hard on similar things. I think that's really important as well. But in spiritual relationship, different than personal style relationship where you and me are connected as personalities, enjoying our mutual culture. In spiritual style work, we're leaning towards what's uncomfortable a bit more or way more. And so if I'm, irritated by you, I'm seeing myself.
Reflection. Yes. I think the three, as a visual, like three fingers back at you.
It goes back to three things back at me. And I heard that from my third grade teacher.
Yeah, those things. Yeah. I sometimes think like, I'm not even going to say this because I know there's three things here that I could totally work on. So I'll just work on those now.
And that's exactly it. So from intuitive community, we have this heart open, empath, super sensitivity, all these negative people in the world. Keep them away from me. I've learned to be like, this Donald Trump represents a piece of the collective ego, a piece of my ego. It represents how one is fed by negativity and can enjoy it.
Consumer of negativity, it sounds like.
Like someone can become one who knows how to live off of negativity and get stronger by it. We all have that in us. That's me. That's in some ways me. Mother Teresa knew this. She said one of the reasons she moved forward with her work in Calcutta, like one of the critical turning points, was she saw herself in Adolf Hitler. One of the most beautiful people of all time that has put a brightest light possible in this world saw herself in Adolf Hitler. And she didn't sit there and go, he's wrong, he's bad, wrong, wrong, wrong. War is bad. No, she got her feet on the ground. She started serving lepers, putting herself at risk as a woman in Calcutta. So, sorry, I get really fired up.
I didn't know that. That's actually interesting. It kind of
Yes.
probably identifies with a lot of people, actually. They're probably thinking about a lot of things right now, like.
Right. So in spiritual views, if I stay with Mother Teresa, then I try and inch back towards personal partnership. I'm going to do a few things to get back to it. But if I start with something that Mother Teresa owned and used readily, constantly, it was the statement. You can find this online. She said, every day in every way, all I see is another distressing example of Christ. Or I see another example of Christ in disguise. And in our community, we might change that a little bit. Every day in every way, all I see is another disguise of source energy, of alive energy. So in Madison here, when I do a circle of friends around the fire with the Girl Scouts or whatever, there's a full circle of 5 people talking about Trump. And I'm sitting there going, Trump is a distressing disguise of source. That's where my heart is. And I'm trying to find me in this circle of people without negating the harmful things he does. And I think that's me trying to find myself. That's spiritual work. That's a visionary trying to connect to culture and where it's at and doing my best. It's uncomfortable to be different. It really is. But it's what visionaries do. We cut these trails in ourselves, and then we try to create testimonials and situations where others can find that truth. So now so if I can practice that with Donald Trump, which is really incredibly hard, but I would offer, I think if you're honest with yourself, and if anybody listening to this is honest with themselves, they're going to sit there and go, yes. And then it's even more challenging to practice that view, contemplate that view with the person I'm living with.
Keep going.
This is just another distressing disguise of source. It's the person I'm living with. For me, I have a vein that pops out of my head when I'm angry.
Okay.
It turns red and goes, it's kind of scary.
The visual of what you're feeling.
Okay. I also try to use this with my family of origin, people I visit on Christmas and Thanksgiving. And Ram Dass said, he's a teacher, transformation teacher. He said, if you if you get the sense that you're enlightened, I'd like you to spend a couple days with your family.
I will test you.
That will test you. And that's really where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
Being with nice people in high community and vibing and beautiful things is right. It's so right. How can I tell you that's so right and be an and also guy? And the and also guy is the real work is so rare and few people really take it on. And it's the ego next to me, or the oral, the needy person trying to suck the life out of the circle of 10 people is the teacher.
I was going to say the world is your training ground. Yes, you're right. And then
Yes.
it really makes you, it opens your eyes and tests you in ways that you wouldn't if you're, and that actually reminds me of this concept we just talked about groundedness and then living up here. It's like, oh, now I have to go do the dishes or cut the firewood.
Yes,
like
yes.
this is,
Yes.
yeah. It still reminds me of a tree though, every time, like the visual of a tree and the massive expanse of the roots and then the ability for it to shine. And that's really all you see is this part. You don't see all their workings.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's similar is the physical body is just an outcropping of the magnificence you are. It's a small little aspect of self. So it's been practiced. Like I'm seeing Lindsay as a physical body, but the magnificence that you are is actually 99% of you. What you really are is the full 100%. It's the full 100%.
That's the invisible is what you're saying.
In part, it's not invisible to me, but there is the unmanifest you as well.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
So since I see this nice picture above your head, and this is something that I want to touch on real quick.
I'll turn up and have you look at it.
Yeah. Do you want to explain what you do see first?
Right. So generally, or for you particularly?
Either one.
Okay.
I can be put on the spot or not. It doesn't really matter.
Okay. So in the image here, I can point at the physical body there. So there's a little aspect of this larger field. And this is the true self manifested completely. There are no barriers to it. The barriers have been removed in this image. It's also that which is there underneath the clouds. So I can take this image and have some affection for it and know that that's who Lindsay really is underneath all stories and all conditioning. There's this magnificent self underneath that. So I can look at that view and then look into your physical body, look beyond everything. And if I do, colors, patterns start to present. Can I be less distracted by the painting behind you in order to do that? Can I relax about that? Okay, that might have some impact in how I'm seeing
you. Want me to go to a white wall?
No. It's just part of my practice.
Okay.
But I think it's important in the healer's heart to hang out with the 99% or the magnificent self. And when I have a Reiki client come in and they have a lot of issues and they're going through tests. So I've been seeing a couple whose son is just discovering he has a thought disorder, and a profound one, and they're going through all kinds of stuff. So hearing them out and their challenges and how to deal with this, and even be part of some of the functional answers is part of what I do. But in terms of I want the healer's heart, I look through all the story and I trust that somehow this is supposed to be as it is. That Supreme Source, infinite intelligence is at work behind the scenes here. Yeah. So can I look at Lindsay and tell myself, this is all supposed to be as it is. Everything that she is and her presentation is supposed to be just like this. So then now I'm in the healer's heart.
So I think when I first met you back at
Right.
Mimosa, maybe 15 years ago, you saw something like that. And I think it scared me. And
Right.
yeah, I don't know what that was then. 'Cause I didn't understand it, but go ahead.
No, please keep sharing.
But I bought your book or you gave the book or something with that. And I'll just go on to how I found, yes, this here. So the illustrations are done by you, correct?
The line drawings and a lot of the insights are there, and Larry's the author. Was the main overseer and at the Institute of Self Awareness, and he's still in Milwaukee. But he was instrumental in helping me understand how to do the work I'm doing now.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Yes.
good to know.
Oh,
So I didn't see you again. Do you want to go on? Because I was going to tell a
no,
quick story.
I saw you, and some insight I said kind of shocked you or scared you, and then there was some time between.
Quite a bit of time. And I found your book again, like 2 years ago, and I found your card in there. And I thought, he probably isn't around anymore. And then I met Taylor at the mall, just a chance, and she asked me to come to one of your events, and I was like, oh my gosh! And that's when I met Amanda. And then all of this is like, this is how we are here today, and that's just been really cool. So I think, I don't know, I'm thinking about timing. I'm thinking about like not really losing hope. And like for those of you out there that have, something, maybe you've had a tinge of this ability to have visuals or whatever gifts you have,
Mm.
or that just no matter how much time has gone by, it's still possible to enter into the healer's realm at some point. And
Mm.
yeah.
Hey, the fact that everything is energy can't be avoided. Some of us have tried to bury it, but lasting answers don't come until we face these greater facts about life and reality and who we are. And I think even in humanity, there's been an argument, for instance, by the greatest minds of all history. They argue about things like predestination and free will. You could go to school for philosophy and you argue for one and the other. They have debates, and it goes on and on and on. There's books about each. And it's not just in Western philosophy that these things are at odds with each other. And for me, I really have needed to understand that there's a place in reality where they get along beautifully. There's a place in myself where there's no argument.
Uh-huh.
It's resolved in dichotomy. Dichotomy is now trusted. The tension in the middle of my life, everything that's going on in my life is now trusted. Instead of trying to fix it or heal it or get rid of it, what if healing actually is some form of trust of everything as it is, especially the tension in the middle of your life, right there between your ears? What if the ultimate resolution is that? I'm saying this after doing countless healing groups and countless techniques with many, many people, with busy stuff that you can do for healing and knowledge, schools of knowledge you can keep accessing, people seeking answers for countless years with new techniques. And for a full 2 years, they finally found the most perfect technique of all. And then it sort of wears off. I've seen all these things. I've been all these people. And I will say, once in a while, I get to talk about trusting the tension in the middle of my life as the most powerful medicine I've found.
That actually helps me too, knowing that it helps you not resist what's coming because you already have this knowing that it's going to be okay, or that it's going.
Yeah. So if we were able to have access to spiritual reality, it says safety. It says beautifulness. It's transcendent. So the Supreme Source is playing. It's not playing tiddlywinks, but in its own way, it's being part of this incredible beauty. It's so incredible that every horror and every joy in humanity is part of it.
Yeah, that's profound.
It's so huge, and we're connected to it. That's our destiny. ultimately. How fast are we able to get to it is it's okay, whatever it takes. If it takes lifetimes or if you're ready for it now. I'm part of those few people that are ready to go at it right now. Try and find peace, a lasting peace that isn't found in the relative world, of the changing world, where my success is temporary. Everything I've achieved and will achieve is fine. It's nothing wrong with making a huge impact and creating a legacy. It's part of the temporary. It's part of the magnificent ultimate reality. A small little piece of it. So are we on track in any way? I don't know.
Great. I was just thinking about me because you were saying yours is go, and I'm thinking sometimes I wait and for the opportunity to arise. So
Yeah.
there's sometimes that it's go time or you're going against the grain. So how did you know that it was time to go and when?
Right. Thank you for saying that. Because the direction I'm talking about is different than like the linear. I'm gonna change the
Talk about that now. I think it will come to fruition here when we talk about time travel.
Yeah. Yeah. So from common rep points of view, we relate to growth in a linear way. So growth means leave high school, go to college, get a degree, have a career, there's marriage and kids and old age with grandchildren. And then that's like the very clear cut growth process. And, and then when you're talking about intuitive growth, what we're doing is we're realizing we're going head on to this philosophy. It's got sizzle and then it dies. Do we just keep pushing forward, or do we go, wait a minute, rest, get a course correction from the intuitive self. And then all of a sudden you're zagging in another direction. And then you realize over 10 years that you've been zigzagging. This zigzag is being driven by, there's an answer in the world in some philosophy. Wait a minute, what if I let that go? Oh, spiritual framework is world culture. It's part of human society. The truth is, it's right here. I can rest out of all the zigzagging now. The freedom I'm looking for is actually right here in this mystery. There's this mystery right here. It's looking out these eyes. This is my direction now. And in a sense, that becomes the point of where liberation actually happens. The truth confirms itself in one's own body kinesthetically when the energies turn on. It's an ecstatic moment. Whoa. And you catch all the parts of you that are looking for answers and looking for spiritual experiences instead of resting in a fact in oneself.
Reminds me of you have to go see the whole world before you come back home and realize you wanted to be there anyway. But I think
yeah.
part of the journey, it's fun.
Yeah.
But
and Krishna Das is a beautiful singer. He does kirtan.
Oh.
And one of the things he says between the songs is just amazing. He goes, when I was younger, I traveled across the ocean and worked really hard to get to a certain place in India to find my teacher. And I can't tell you how hard it was to get to that mountain place, and probably got lost and probably got sick on the way. And it might have taken weeks. And he finally finds this guru in the mountains of India, profound moment. And he says, love like Jesus. And Krishna Das is saying, I could have gotten that truth in the church around the corner from where I grew up. So for him, his journey was, it's closer than you think. Wow. That God is in India, but it's here too. You don't need to go to India to discover it, to be in the fact. It's actually right here where you're looking from.
Yeah, and some of the truths are so simple that they're hard to comprehend. Takes a lifetime to comprehend a sentence of truth.
Right. Well, the trying to comprehend disappears. What's replacing that struggle is the truth by itself.
Broaden that a little bit more.
Yeah. So because we're used to having a me and a that, and me learning that and me getting that, the latest stages of this territory, intuitive territory, becomes me and that aren't two. I think that's a way of saying the truth that's discovered. It's hard to just give, but it's that what that truth says. It says me and that aren't separate. So that source I'm looking for and what I am as a material finite being aren't separate in any way. There's no actual seam. One of my favorite books that really boils this down so simply and beautifully is called Oneness, the Destination You Never Left by John Grieven. The destination you never left. And for that one person out of 20 million people that are relating to what I'm saying right now.
Exactly.
Right. This is to me what resolves all the questing I've done with healing techniques, trying to get healed, trying to get rid of unhelpful conditioning endlessly. It's a really important part of our functioning self to clear our auras and to work on ourselves in growth terms. And this is all included somehow in this bigger bird's eye view of a human life, of the human dream and the dream character. It's the things I'm pointing to are very a high level of context. So how do we get back down to the basics of anybody that's listening? How are we going to resolve this particular conversation? One of the ways I kind of think is anybody that's listening is invited to a basic healing class. I'll show you through all the basics. I'll show you how to clear your aura, clear your karma, grow as a person, discover energy, become more intuitive. But what I like to say is I'll also offer you a nice balanced approach where ecstatic, powerful intuition doesn't just go woo. It becomes a clear part of functioning.
I like that last statement there. It becomes a clear part of functioning. So it is. Yeah. Mm. That kind of ties it all up together nicely.
Oh, beautiful. That happened here in this dialogue with someone like me. Wow.
And you didn't have to try.
Yeah, and it spontaneously showed up.
That's the best. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add today, Jeremy?
I do online classes. If somebody finds this video out there in Florida, you can find our meetups group, Affinity Group in Madison, Wisconsin. I have a website, affinitytransformations.com. People can get acquainted with our community and what Amanda and I do as healers. And we do joint healing sessions, Amanda and I, and then I do individual sessions and Amanda does individual sessions. There's a lot of ways to approach us. And you're all invited to test out what I do, get to know me. And I'm just on a parallel path with all these people on a quest. And I have some answers that are powerful and rare and exciting.
And I could vouch for all that because I've been to the classes and you two have changed my life. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for celebrating us, and you're celebrating your own divinity in the process, because that's what we're all about.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to you both. And thanks for being here today. We can add some links when this gets published out there for people to look for the group and be part of those online, which is so beneficial nowadays to be part of the groups online because you can reach the masses no matter where you're located.
Yay!
Okay, well, thanks so much for being here today. It was very joyful, and till next time.
Excellent. Thank you.